A sewing lesson from Sew New York. This is part 2 on darts. We will pin, baste, and sew the darts on the machine. Okay, so now I've removed all the pins from the pattern piece, and basically the pattern is loose except for where the thread markings are. So I want to be able to take this off, and I don't want to destroy the pattern because I'd like to be able to use it again. So I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to pull my first mark until the loop that was up here touches the paper. So now the loop is touching the paper. I'm going to go behind this, just pinch the paper a little bit, and then pull the mark through. Okay, go to the next one, and just gently pull it so that the loop is now touching the paper. Come back here, hold the pattern with your 2 fingers, and pull the mark through. You should pull your pattern and marks apart in this fashion throughout the rest of the pattern. Okay, it's all free now. So now we're going to separate. What's going to happen is now there's 2 sides of the bodice piece. You have the right back and the left back. We're going to do the same thing as we just did with the pattern. We're going to pull the fabric apart, and you're going to pull it until your loop touches the fabric. So the loop is now coming and now it's touching. Go behind it and you cut both of your marks. Okay, let's try that again over here. So you see the loop, you're going to pull it through until the loop touches the fabric. And come back here and cut it in half. You should pull your marks apart and cut in this fashion throughout the rest of the dart. When I teach and you cut your pattern, you lay your pattern out on your fabric, you always fold your fabric in half so that your selvages are together and you have a fold on one edge. Therefore, your fabric is folded, and when you put your pattern piece down and pin it, you cut 2 layers. So you cut 2 pieces, and usually you're cutting the right side and the left side of the pattern piece. Now, this is what I do. I keep the good side of the fabric out so I can see it when I put the pattern down. And I keep the wrong side of the fabric together on the inside. So this is my good side, and this is the good side, and this would be the wrong side, or then therefore the inside of my garment. Okay, now on a fabric like this is a cotton sateen, you know, it's hard to tell the right from the wrong. It's the same on both sides. So with these tailor tacks, this is another reason why I like the tailor tacks. With this marking system, you're going to be able to tell the good side from the wrong side by this method. The side that has the loop, it's now laying flat, but that was the loop. Remember, we pulled it down, and this is where the loop was, and this is where the loop was. Okay, so that side, as well as the side that has the little stitches, because you went all the way through, these little stitches, are always your outside, the good side of your fabric. And then when you open it, the short little fuzzy things, and they are shorter, are always the inside. Okay, next I'm going to show you how you're going to pin and then baste the dart. Okay, now we're going to pin our dart together, and I'm using the side that has the stitch to show you, to demonstrate the dart pinning for you. And now we know that the little stitch on one side makes this the good side, and the short fuzzy things are at the inside. And whenever you sew a seam, the good sides always go together. So if I know that, okay, I want to match this mark with that mark. Okay, you want those marks to kiss. That's the key word. Those marks are going to kiss. So I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to pin it from the back side, actually. I'm going to put a pin into the center portion, the approximate center of that mark, and it's right there in the stitch, and it's going to go through the center portion of that stitch coming through. So now these 2 marks on this side and on that side are kissing, and I'm going to put the pin in. And the same thing is going to follow through with the next 2 marks. And these are the 2 marks that I added. I think it's a good idea to have extra marks. I'm going into the center of that one and into the center of that one there. Okay? And there's the pin. Those 2 marks are now kissing. You can push them together on the pin. They're kissing, and then just put the pin in. Okay? And now last but not least is the vanishing point. This is the very tip of the dart. So I'm going to place a pin just below those 2 marks. Just to keep it in place, and I'll show you what I mean. So now the whole dart is pinned, as you can see, from the bottom. Let me show it this way. From down here, it's pinned all the way to the vanishing point. And because I've pinned that, I've created this nice fold. This edge here is folded. Okay? So the vanishing point is the very tip of that fold. And when you sew a dart, the dart is sewn in this fashion. I'm going to just lay a piece of thread here so you can see what these marks represent. The marks are a guideline for you. So you would sew from this mark down here to that middle mark to the vanishing point. And that's the dart. That is your dart. Now I'm going to show you how to baste it. Now it's always good to use contrasting thread. So I'm going to use a piece of white thread. Okay, so this is the stitch line. So instead of basting right through my stitch line, I'm just going to move my basting stitches slightly away. So about here. I have a knot in the end of my thread. I'm just going to start right here. And if you're right-handed, you're always sewing from the right to the left. If you're left-handed, you would sew from the left to the right. And here, have a look. This is the basted dart. Let me just go out a little bit. Okay. And that's going to guide us for sewing. Okay. Now we're at the machine. And we're going to sew the dart up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take out all of our pins. Because it's basted, you don't need to have the pins. And I'm going to show you a simple trick on how to use this ruler to make a nice straight dart. So if you don't have a ruler like this, you could use a bigger ruler, but this is a sewing gauge with a 6-inch ruler, and it comes in really handy for sewing darts. All right, let's turn this way. So this is the waistline of the dress and the beginning of our dart where we sew it in the machine. I'm going to use a purple thread so you can see it. Okay, and on this machine, well, my needle's right here. I happen to have a nice little line on my foot right here, and that line is exactly where my needle is. If you don't have that line, just make sure that you use your eye, and you're going to keep your eye on your needle, and you're going to watch as your marks move closer towards your needle. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place it in at the beginning right here, and I'm going to line the needle up, aiming towards the center of my first mark, my first tailor's tack. So it's right here is the center. All right, and I'm going to take a few stitches and back tack. Back tacking locks the seam in. You go in reverse. Just a few stitches. Okay, I'm going to go back. And now I'm going to sew to the center of the first mark. And if you don't feel secure enough, you can also use your hand, turn the wheel, and just walk it into the mark. If you happen to go just below the mark, that's okay too, but you should be right in line with that mark. Now, make sure your needle's down. If the needle's down, you can lift the foot up. All right, we're going to use that ruler now. So now, I don't know if you can, before I put the ruler, I'm going to have you look at something. If I were just to sew straight, I would miss the second mark and I'd be sewing straight, but I would miss all the 3 marks because the dart, this is straight at the machine. That's the dart, it's on an angle, okay? So we're gonna use the ruler and we're gonna angle it. So lift the foot up, make sure your needle's down, put the ruler in, and you're putting it in right at the needle, and it's at that first mark. Then line it up with the second mark, and then line it up with the vanishing point, which is not in camera, but it's the vanishing point, you know, that's on the end of your fold. So now your ruler's on an angle, and your hand is here, the foot is up, and now you're just gonna slightly move the fabric and the ruler at the same time until your ruler is nice and straight. And in other words, the ruler is parallel with your lines. If you have some lines on the side of the machine, you want it nice and straight. And you can use your eye. Now, take out the ruler and you're going to put the foot down. The idea is that at some point your eye is going to get trained and you're going to watch the second mark as it moves closer to the needle. Okay, so I'm going to sew to the second mark. Take your time if you're new at sewing and get yourself into that mark. Okay, and now I'm in the center of the second mark. And the third mark, the vanishing point, is right down here. So now I'm going to line the ruler up with this mark. Lift up the foot, provided your needle is down. Put the ruler back in at the second mark, and now line it up with your vanishing point, which is the very fold, the last mark. Okay, straighten it again, use your eye, and make your eye watch the vanishing point, which is down here. Go towards your needle. And take your time. And you can see right now, here's the vanishing point, and it's moving closer to the needle. And if you want to, when you get about a ½ inch away and you're not sure, you could actually use your hand and turn the wheel and walk it to the mark. But I'm going to try and sew it right up at the mark. So the very last stitch I take is in the center of where that mark is at the fold. And I just went off the fabric right in the mark. I'm going to slide this out and we're going to take a look at it. And when you pull it out, we're not going to back tack. We back tacked up here at the top of the seam. Back tacking sometimes leaves, a little bit of a thickness. It's not bad, but you want to back tack all seams at the top and bottom. But with the dart ends in the middle of your body, so it's on your belly basically, or on the back, your back. Now this is the dart. It's not it's not a skirt dart. It is a top dart. It's a bodice back of that pattern, Vogue pattern V8815. So this is a dart in the back on the bodice, but it leaves a little bit of a lump if you back tack. So we're going to pull it out, and you're going to leave enough thread, and we're going to tie a knot. Also leave enough thread for your machine before you just go and cut it off too short. Okay, now the dart is all sewn. Can you see the purple thread? I'll zoom in a little bit for you so you can see. And this is where we started, went through each mark, and it went off right at the vanishing point. Do you see that there? Yeah. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do that's nice and straight, we're going to pull out the basting, and your basting might get caught a little bit, but just pull it out. Okay. And then you're going to pull out all your tailor tacks, and sometimes they get a little bit stuck, but you can cut them out. All right. So now there's the dart, nice straight dart. Okay. What we're going to do next is we're going to cut the threads off at the beginning where you start at the waist. Cut the thread up there. We're just going to do some overhand knots. So it's 1, 2, and I think 3 is the best. So tie 3 knots. And then you're going to just cut this and leave about a ½ inch of thread. You don't want to cut it all the way off. All right, now that dart is sewn. I will show you the pressing of the dart in part 3.